The Nintendo Switch is pretty good, but what if I told you that the Switch wasn't actually Nintendo's own idea? And to understand why that's so important, you need to realize just how much the Switch saved Nintendo. Because, well, Nintendo's console releases haven't always been smooth sailing. Who remembers the Virtual Boy?
Wait till they get a load of me!
Its own legs, your eyes. Virtual Boy, see it now in 3D.
Seems pretty cool, right? Well, at least it would have been. Except, unfortunately, it gave the young, excited children of the 90s extreme migraines. Okay, so it failed for other reasons too, like for example how expensive it was, but it failed so hard that the guy who came up with the idea, Gunpei Yokoi, left the company. And he also came up with the idea for the Game & Watch and the Game Boy, two of Nintendo's biggest successes, and so that's a pretty big deal. But what the Virtual Boy proves is that Nintendo are willing to take some pretty crazy risks, and it was innovation like the Virtual Boy that got Nintendo out of their first big ditch. You see, the GameCube was Nintendo's last vanilla console, and it had to be, because something was going wrong for Nintendo. So the days where you would be sat on the floor, eyes glued to the screen, hunched forwards, and on the grind were coming to an end. Because then, the Wii came out.
We would like to play.
There was a marked change in the credibility of Nintendo's home gaming. It became more of a family bonding exercise, or literally exercise. So what happened?
It carries these telltale signs. Users lose all sense of reality and enter another world.
There was a point where Nintendo dominated the home video game market, but then the PlayStation 1 came out and Sony took the spotlight. No one had ever even come close to the sales figures of the PlayStation 1. Nintendo were losing the battle. Sony had taken over. Microsoft shortly after releases the Xbox, and Nintendo were doing worse and worse with every home console that they released. Things were bad. And then the Wii came out. At the cost of Nintendo gaming as we knew it, the Wii was pure innovation. They took a leap of faith, and it paid off. They sold 100 million Wiis, 5 times the amount of the GameCube sales, and the same amount of sales as the PlayStation 1. Typically, gaming was marketed towards a younger audience, and now we have people of all age ranges featuring in Nintendo's adverts. But that became a part of the problem. Yes, they had sold 100 million of them, but no one was buying the games. The Wii became a household name, a must-have. It was on the itinerary list of every dinner party, but for these people, Wii Sports and Wii Fit was all they really needed. Here's a crazy fact for you. Out of 100 people who owned a Nintendo Wii, roughly only 4 of them owned Zelda Skyward Sword, the Zelda game released for the Wii. And that's a big issue, because console sales are just one piece of the puzzle. They need to sell the games too. And that just wasn't really happening. And to cement that into the Mario factory even harder, Nintendo went on to release the Wii U, and that was even more of a disaster. That only sold 14 million units. Nintendo weren't just back to the drawing board. The drawing board was on fire. We need a new idea. Okay, ideas guy. What have you got for me? Of course, sir. Let me see. Stop right there. I've got it. People loved the Wii Remote and the Nunchuck, so let's do those again, and that way we can still market this to the people who love the gimmicks. Shave! This is truly terrible. This isn't gonna be enough. But sir, I have an idea. Shh. I've got it. let's steal someone else's idea.
We have one more surprise. This is the Nintendo Switch.
That's what I'm talking about.
Everyone remembers where they were when the Nintendo Switch trailer dropped. The culmination of everything great about Nintendo. The gimmicks still available to the Wii Sports lovers, but they weren't the focus anymore. This was a device that did everything. You could lock in again like you once could and escape into the magic of Nintendo's unparalleled warm universe of games. And then you could simply connect the controller to the box in front of your screen and pick up what would then become the ultimate portable video game system. You could now be in your own little world on the go. You could play with your friends in the back of a car, at a party, or on a park bench. The Switch was so successful that Nintendo decided to discontinue the DS line. There was no need for it anymore. By making a device that was both a home video game system and a portable one, users now had the best of both worlds. They've since sold 130 million units, and any day now the Switch 2 is going to be announced. Game sales are through the roof. Zelda Breath of the Wild has sold 32 million copies alone. Nintendo are unstoppable. And all they had to do was steal the idea from someone else. In 1995, Sega made a handheld video game system called the Nomad. This allowed you to play your Mega Drive games portably, but then you could take it home, connect it to a television and plug in a controller, and play the games on your television like a Nintendo Switch. The Switch idea, the idea that ultimately saved Nintendo, was not their own idea. And what makes things even worse is Nintendo weren't even the first company to make a Nintendo Switch. Introducing the TV Advance. Okay, it might not look like much, but this is the first ever Nintendo Switch. And what's crazy is that this came out in 2001 and was only really sold in Japan and a couple of other European countries, and no one has ever made a video about this on the internet before. This is the first time the world has ever seen this thing working. Let's take a look. The idea of this was simple. To start with, you had to remove the 7 screws from the back of the Game Boy. The necessary tools were included in this kit, but they were absolute garbage. Once the back housing is off, you can then unlatch the screen's connector and jam another ribbon cable in, which is attached to what will become the new back housing of your Game Boy, which was included in this kit. The Game Boy is now outputting 2 video signals, one to the existing screen of your Game Boy, and the other to this new connection on the back of your Game Boy. The Game Boy still functions entirely the same, except now it can switch. Not quite like that, but it did come with a dock. The dock was plugged into the mains, so provided power to the Game Boy. It also had the world's longest cable, so you could play from your sofa on the other side of the universe. And on the end was an S-video connector and your standard AV cables. You could then take your Game Boy, grab the dock and connect the two together. Plug in the audio cable and you're switched. Except mine doesn't work. One thing I should probably mention is that these are extortionately expensive and very hard to come by. While there are a couple on eBay from sellers in Japan where this thing came from, the problem is this is already the second one I've bought. Because over a year ago I was renovating my house and my life was a complete mess. I tried to make a video on this thing and it just didn't work.
We're going to be taking a look at the Game Tech Video Out kit.
I started off as I would. I showed the contents, I read how to install the thing, I installed it and went to test it.
That was too simple. I'm a little bit suspicious of how well that is going to work.
Well, that doesn't work.
Oh, this is awkward.
And yeah, exactly the same problem. So I scrapped the entire video. I already had enough things to fix. But now I have two, and neither of them work. And I'm beginning to think that maybe systematically these things are just starting to stop working because of how old they were, and I don't live in a building site anymore, and I've got all the time in the world. So let's fix it. A few days later, exactly what I needed arrived in the mail. There are a few components on this board which can fail over time, and since this is a device which outputs a video signal, I'm going to assume it's the capacitors. The video signal comes out of the Game Boy and into the dock, which then through software within the circuitry converts the signal and sends it back out of the video cables and into your TV. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There are 8 capacitors on this board. I'm going to take all of these ones off and put on the new ones. The capacitors are heavily involved in that process, and when they're of a certain age, they can start to fail and not do their job properly, causing the video signal to be corrupt. My hope is by replacing all of these, we will plug it in and it will just work. At this point, I wanted to give up. I had sunk weeks into making this video and hundreds of pounds buying these things. I tried 2 different units and attempted to fix the only thing I could imagine being wrong with it, and still no luck. It was all just getting too much for me. You suck! You're not good enough. No one wants to subscribe to you. Am I gay? You'll never make that video. Get a job! And then I had an idea. Hey man, I really need your help with something. I must travel. This is my mate Vince, and he is always happy to see me. He has a channel with nearly 1 million subscribers, and he fixes literally everything. If anyone can do this, it's him. The first thing he did was check that I even connected everything properly, so he assembled it himself and tested it. But yeah, unfortunately, it was definitely broken. We even tried it on an old Japanese television, and that too didn't work. And then, Vince started saying words.
So there has to be continuity through this ribbon cable here, because we have an image on this screen.
Yeah.
But on the other side of the ribbon cable, there's nothing.
Yeah.
So for the screen to work, it has to be passing through this new ribbon cable that's doubled up on top.
And this screen
going through.
still displays the game, but it doesn't work on the TV, which means that the problem has to be that.
Or between here and these contacts here. So why don't we do a quick continuity test?
What Vince just said there was something that hadn't even crossed my mind. I automatically assumed it was going to be the dock, but actually now, looking back, when you plug the dock in, it already shows that image on the screen. And then when you turn the Game Boy on, nothing happens. And Vince said that what we should do is check the ribbon cable between the Game Boy's video out and that new connector for the dock. To do this, we have to check for something called continuity. That's basically just a setting on a multimeter. You switch the dial over, and then when you touch the 2 probes together, it makes a little beep. If there's a break in the circuit, it's not going to make a beep. So we checked the ribbon cable. Yeah, next one. Yeah, next one. Next one. It started off well, and each pin was connected properly, but then this happened.
No, unless it's not connected.
Absolutely nothing. No beep. And then it happened again. That's still not doing anything. And again.
No.
And again.
No, but there might be some that are not connected.
Okay. So we now knew 100% that some of the ribbon cable wasn't making a connection. Then Vince got his little fancy eye loop out and looked up real close, and there it was. A tear in the ribbon cable. How did I not see that? So then we checked the other one, and Vince noticed that it bent in a really weird way. All of the pins had been held at an extreme angle for years in the box, and what had happened is they had just snapped.
And if we go to this second one here, if you follow the trace, it comes up roughly around here. It's not coming up. So if you have a listen, you can hear it here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it should then come up. It runs all the way along, comes up roughly this area. And look, nothing's happening. This thing piggybacks into that to take the signal out from here to this connector here. This connector then connects to the dock, and the dock has the circuitry to put the image from here onto a TV. But what's happening is, if this is broken here, which we believe it is,
because we didn't find continuity between this
pins,
point and this point,
then it can't put the signal through to the dock.
If that's the problem, we can fix both. And when I say we, I mean you, because you're a wizard at whatever the hell this is.
Thank you.
Vince then got to work doing something very few people in the world could ever do: repairing a tear in a ribbon cable. The ribbon cable has been repaired. What do you think is going to happen?
It's going to work. Turn it on now. It's even worse than it was before.
The fact that it's the same result. Completely confused and lost with what to do, we decided to try it once again. I've bought another one. I had to do it. I honestly think the problem is that this ribbon cable has just absolutely had it. Poor Vince tried even harder off camera to fix it, and now there's a tear here, and the pins have actually fallen off entirely. So I've bought another one. This was brand new. Here's a shot of me opening it. Oh yes, that's what losing hundreds of pounds looks like. This is going to work. Let's install it. Brand new, how exciting. I don't think we're gonna even need the new dock because these ones are probably gonna work fine. Now what's interesting about this one is they're actually entirely different designs. This is both page 9 of the manuals, and look, completely different. The one that we were trying is the double ribbon cable job where you jam 2 ribbon cables in. This one is a connector that you push over the top. So let's incredibly gently try and do this. I am literally shaking, I'm so nervous. Come on. Okay. Well, it's together. This one even has a little door for the dock connector, which is really cool. Okay, so let's turn on just the dock. There we go. Right. This is it. I am absolutely bricking it. Oh, we need to take this out. This is horrible. This is absolutely horrible. Please, please, please work. For history. Oh my god. Oh. So there we go. It works. I am so relieved. This is the first Nintendo Switch. 2001. You can also change the size so it's slightly smaller. Don't really know why. It's not great. It's fairly low quality, but it does the job. What's the moral of the story? Never give up. Nintendo didn't. But just, you know, be original. Oh, I'm giving up.